to start the recording. Ready?
Yep.
All right. Welcome back, guys. This is our third set review video. We're going to be going over every single blue card for Dominaria United for Limited on a scale of 1 to 5. If you guys might miss the introduction or our white, make sure you guys go back, check them out. They're already up. And welcome back, Yanks.
Glad to be back for the best color in all of Magic.
Boo! Let's go ahead and jump into Academy Lore Master. 2 mana blue for a 2/3 human wizard that says at the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws an additional card. If they do, spells they cast this turn cost 2 more to cast. So this plays very well if you've got instant speed draw spells, if you've got counter magic. It's pretty nifty. Also, it lets you do, it's kind of fair for both players if you have extra mana late in the game. It's also a well above rate creature on its own, a little tough to cast, but I think there's nothing not to like here, Yanks.
Yeah, I think this card is good and limited. Basically for its body, giving them the option to also draw a card isn't great, but as long as you're able to take advantage of the doing things off turn, but then it should be fine. I love this card for Constructed more because I get to play Draw Go instead of just Draw Go.
Yeah, Draw Go with counter magic, or can you imagine this back in the day with the Simic Flash deck where you had the wolves and stuff to be casting on your opponent's turn anyway? This would be absolutely nutty.
Oh, this is supposed to be the only creature in your deck.
I mean, it plays in multiple control decks. I think the Flash deck would be pretty dope. I could be wrong, but it would have
been good. It would have been good in that deck.
Yeah, definitely. Even still, I like this card. I don't think it's a total slam dunk because, again, your opponents can do the exact same thing, but it's still a well above rate, and you'll probably benefit a lot more from the card draw than the average opponent. So, I mean, I think this is like a 3.5.
Yeah, I think it's probably a 3 on average, but if you have enough stuff to take advantage of it, like all the flash we saw in white, or I'm sure blue will have plenty of things to play on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, it depends on how good the counters are and how good the instant speed draw and removal is.
Agreed.
All right, let's keep it going. We got the Academy Wall, a 3 mana 0/5 defender. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This ability triggers only once per turn. I like this. Some decks are going to kind of want this filtering, which I think is pretty cool, but it's going to be mostly a sideboard card for me.
Yeah, I think you're going to want it probably if you're in the Defender's deck only as a main deck card. Otherwise, yeah, it's a sideboard card.
And I'm not entirely convinced that the Defender's deck isn't just a meme. So, yeah, I'm going to give this a 1 for the average deck.
Agreed.
All right, your turn.
Aether Channeler, 2 and a blue for a 2/1 human wizard. When it enters the battlefield, choose one. Create a 1/1 white bird creature token with flying. Return another target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, or draw a card. I love this card.
Yeah, this card's fantastic.
You get your choice of 2 bodies, Man of War, or draw a card. That's incredible flexibility.
Yeah, no one thing on there is like a bomb, but given that you can pick and choose anything depending on the state of the game is awesome. And a lot of times I just want to draw a card with this and it feels fan-freaking-tastic. It's also a human wizard, which is probably going to be relevant. Bounce is fantastic when it's relevant. And also just getting a flyer and then being able to just trade with their enlist creature and then being able to poke them to death with Bird Jesus feels great.
Yeah, so people have been wondering if this is going to be like a long-term cycle with the Strixhaven. I can't remember the name of it, but the black one that had it was like a 3 mana 2/1 with 3 options.
Yep, that's exactly the card I thought of when we first read this as well. This feels like a 3/5 or a 4 to me.
Yeah, I think it's.
It doesn't have the power of a typical 4, but it feels so strong. It feels like a thing that really puts you in a good position.
Yeah, this feels like a little bit in a way like Organ Hoarder, where you looked at it and you're like, yeah, okay, the card's good, but you just felt so far behind every time they played it.
Yes, it feels like it's going to give you that sort of snowbally effect that you kind of need to win some of these games. And it feels very good. So I think it's a 3-5, but it's going to feel like it puts you massively ahead.
Yeah.
Battlewing Mystic, 2 mana for a 2/1 flying bird wizard with a red kicker that says whenever it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. That's cute. 2 mana for a 2/1 flyer, I'm in. And, red likes to dump out its hand really quick, so does kind of Izzet. Oftentimes will be very aggressive and tempo-y sometimes, and then you get to redraw, which feels cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting card. I mean, it's not really 3 mana, 2/1 flyer, draw 2 cards, but that's kind of almost always when you're going to pay the red.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe discard a land, draw 2 cards.
Yeah. And a lot of times you'll just be fine with a 2 mana, 2 power flyer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this card's good.
Yeah, agreed. I think this is like 3. I can't imagine cutting it.
Yeah, I think it's a 3.
Awesome. Combat Research, 1 mana for an enchant creature. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. As long as the enchant creature is legendary, it gets +1/+1 and has Ward 1. I like this. Normally, I'm not a huge fan of auras, but because it draws a card the turn it comes into play, assuming you only cast it on a turn where it's sort of safe to do so, you've got clean blocks or clean attacks. I think this is very playable for just 1 mana.
Yeah, I think the card's fine. I think you need to be careful with it, like you said. The last part in a lot of sets would be kind of flavor text, but there's like 40-something legendaries in this set. So
yeah, not flavor text in this set. There is 46 legendaries before we got the final spoilers today, and we didn't recount. So yeah, it's going to have a lot of +1/+1 floating around for this text. And again, you just cast it when you're careful, and it replaces itself, and you feel fine.
Yeah, this is another snowball card that just if you get a hit in with it and then they can't answer it again, it just feels like you can't win.
Absolutely. All right. So for that card, I like it. I'm going to play like one of them in almost every blue deck, probably. It's like a 3 for me.
Yeah, I think it's a 3.
Coral Colony is a 1/4 defender for 2 mana, and then you can 2 mana tap. Target player mills X cards, where X is the number of creatures you control with defender. Okay, this is the meme, right? Like I'm going to draft 7 of these, and I'm going to try to kill people, and if I do, I get a cookie. Like that's just what's happening in this set. This is going to be pack 1, pick 1 the very first time I open this card for sure.
I kind of think this defender deck might be real. There's a blue win con here. There's a black win con later. White makes a bunch of creatures. Like it might be a real thing.
All right, but they are uncommons, so
yes.
I just worry you'll only have 2 of the uncommons, and then you won't find them, and you'll just have a bunch of O3s that do nothing.
Yeah, it's tough because you could have that. On the flip side, nobody else is going to want them. So, if they get opened, you should get all of them, unless of course 2 of you are trying to fight for defender deck, and then you're both screwed.
Now, I will say this is not a 0 powered card. This is actually a lot. I think this is the most playable defender on its own anyway, just because this is going to go great against all the white decks. There's plenty of
Agreed.
X1s, and then this is, even if you're just milling them for 1, whenever you have the spare time. If the format is slower or you have a slower mirror match, then that'll be fine. This is mostly sideboardable for me, but I could see putting this in against an aggressive deck just fine.
Yeah, this is sideboard / build around.
Yep. It's definitely a 1. The other thing to note is I might just throw it in if I'm just short on 2 drops. Like blue-black control where I just didn't happen to find 2s. This is a perfectly fine card to put in.
Yeah, or if we find out that this is one of these formats that goes really long and even 2 or 3 defenders might be worth, the few mills might matter.
All right. We've got our Blue Defiler, 5 mana, 3 colorless blue for a Phyrexian Sphinx. It is a 4/3 flyer. In addition, it makes your spells cheaper for mana cost. You can spend life, blah, blah, blah. And then whenever you cast a blue permanent spell, draw a card. Drawing is fantastic. It's a big flyer for only 5 mana. This is a great card.
I don't think this is the best of the Defiler cycle, but I think it's the most synergistic in that you're getting to reduce the cost of your spells, and by doing so, you're drawing more cards to recast more spells.
Yes.
yeah, I think this card's fantastic.
And I like that the Defiler cycle, I mean, they would be good regardless, but I like that you don't have to use their ability, like, you don't have to shock yourself in order to get the effect of the card. So if you're low on life, you're not really punished. It just doesn't give you the discount that it might otherwise. So I think it's really, really good. It is pretty easy to kill. We haven't seen the red burn spells, but we know 3 toughness is not going to be the hardest thing in the world to remove. So I think it's probably a 4/5 for me.
Yeah, agreed. So if it was a 4/4, then we might go up, but
Yeah. Djinn of the Fountain. We have a 4/4 for 6 mana. It's flying, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, choose one. It gets +1/+1 till end of turn, or return it to the battlefield. Exile Djinn, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Or you can scry 1. Okay, so it can remove, like, a aura or something. Or you can,
or just
if they go to kill it, you can, in response, kill their thing and then flicker your thing, right? So it has a sort of a built-in thing. That's kind of cool.
yeah, you could it can it's part of this blue-red spells deck, right? Any sort of instant you can play a draw spell to save it from creature from a removal spell.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this card's very flexible, and in the case that you just need to play an instant or sorcery, and the other things don't matter, you get a scry.
Yep.
That's not a bad consolation prize.
No, if you're just doing your thing and you cast a draw spell and there's no threat on the board or whatever, yeah, just scry feels great.
Counter something else, scry 1. Okay.
Yeah. I honestly thought this was a rare. Like, I thought it was kind of like a medium rare. But
it feels like a rare.
Yeah, it does. So I think this is like a 3/5, a very good top end for any blue deck.
Yeah, I think it's a 3/5, and it's probably a 4 in the blue-red deck.
Ertai's Scorn?
Ertai's
Scorn. 3 mana, instant speed. This costs 1 less to cast, 1 blue less to cast if the opponent has 2 or more spells, cast 2 or more spells this turn, and you can counter it. So it's important to know that those 2 spells don't have to have resolved. You could counter their second spell with this. It's fine. It's a cancel plus, right?
Yeah, it's a cancel that's great in counter wars, among other things.
Yeah, or even against the aggro decks, right? Like most aggro decks are going to go 1, 2, and then 1 and 2 on 3 kind of deal, and you're just like, okay, well, just get rid of your tempo thing, and it'll feel fine. And most of the time, you're going to cast it for cancel costs, and it'll be fine. And these are like usually like 2/5s for me.
Yeah, it's also got an interesting scenario, right, where you've got like 1 and a blue up, and your opponent plays a spell as like a test spell to see if you have Essence Scatter, and you don't. And then they play their big spell, and you counter it with this because you couldn't play it the first time anyway.
Yep, I like that. I think it's like a 2/5 for me. I like the discounted cost, but it'll be a thing you could cut, but I probably will run one of these in most decks.
Yeah, I'd say it's a 2/5, and like most limited formats, I imagine counter spells will be better in sealed.
Moving on. Essence, scatter counter target creature spell. For me, these are also like 2/5s. I think it's a little worse, but like, because it says creature, it doesn't say non-creature, you're going to find a target. You certainly will always have the opportunity to play this, and I'm also inclined to play them when I don't have 2-drops, because it's just fine to cast on whatever their small thing is, just to keep yourself in the game if you need longer to like build up. But yeah, it's not a terrible top deck, late game, because they're also going to top deck creatures, so it's fine.
Yeah, Essence Scatter is always main deckable, unlike Negate.
Yes.
But you don't want 4 of them either.
Certainly true. So, 2/5?
2/5.
All right. I will let you take this one.
Founding the Third Path. 1 of the blue for a saga with read ahead. All the sagas in this set have read ahead. Chapter 1. You may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value 1 or 2 from your hand without paying its mana cost. Chapter 2. Target player mills 4 cards. In Chapter 3. Exile target or instant or sorcery from your graveyard. Copy it. You can cast the copy.
I like 2 and 3.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this card. It doesn't feel like it does a whole lot.
You need to have sort of a large number of instants and sorceries, right? Like, for this to be relevant, you have to hit something decent for me to want to run this.
Yeah, and there isn't that much power in most 1 and 2 drop sorceries or instants or sorceries in this set. I mean, you can get something, you play like a cantrip or.
Wait,
like
you're talking about chapter 1?
Oh yeah. I guess for chapter 3.
I don't care about chapter
anything.
1. Well, I'm just pretending that one doesn't exist. I'm starting on 2 or 3. Basically, this is 2 mana, recast your other spell from your graveyard, is where the money here is. And if I have a critical mass of solid instants and sorceries, sure. If I'm running the Defender deck to boot, that has like the Mill Idiot, sure. But yeah, for me, this isn't great. It's gonna play like a 2/5, and I'm only running it if I have, upwards of 8 to 10 solid things I would like to cast again.
Yeah, and you do have to pay the cost on the recast.
Yeah, and they have to be like moderately cheap. It has to be like 4 Dragonfire deck.
Yeah, I think you have to have a lot. Again, this is probably another blue-red deck, blue-red card.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this card, but you're right. There are definitely decks that will want this.
Yes, agreed. So for me, it's like a 2. It's most likely... So it's either like a 1 or it's like a 2/5. It's kind of a split rating card. There is a deck that will want it, but most decks, absolutely not.
Yeah, I agree with the split.
Frost Fist Strider, a 5-mana 4/4 with Ward 2. When it enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls and put a stun counter on it. Doesn't untap when it untaps. Great. So it's interesting to me that they didn't keep the normal writing on it when it's only 1 stun counter. I would have thought that the stun counter would have only affected the writing when it was multiples. But it makes sense that they would keep it themed. But it is weird that this is just the normal effect we typically see. This is a Bergstrider, right?
Yeah.
I believe Bergstrider was also 4 mana, a little easier to cast, and you needed snow, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's the same thing, same idea. I'm assuming they're just moving this ability to always be a counter ability from now on.
Yeah. Or at least they are in this set. I don't know. Not every set will have the counter stun tokens, I would think.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous for them to shift back because then people are going to have stun counters and they're going to start using them, but they're not really counters, and that can be problems. Yeah,
that's true. Interesting.
But
and stun counters are cool with cards that double counters, which is neat. There's some other interactions, which I think is why it would be weird to keep these in every set, because that would really kind of punish sets that have things that double or remove counters, right?
Yeah, but I mean, they already did it with ability counters and shield counters. I guess ability counters don't stack, but shield counters.
Yeah, and we're not going to see shield counters in every set, is my point. Right?
No, but I think if there's ever a card with that effect, it will always be a shield counter.
Well, it's because there's no other way to say it. We don't have any other shield counters. There's no other thing that says the first time this is cast or the first time this is destroyed, it is not destroyed. That is, the shield counter is the baseline versus it doesn't untap when it untaps for the first, you know what I mean? We already had a precedent for this card.
I would be very surprised if they ever go back to the old wording.
Then that's going to, every single time there's anything that adds or removes counters, it's going to play with that. So that
but nobody plays these effects outside of Limited anyway.
What?
Nobody plays these lockdown effects outside of Limited.
I know. And every time a set within Limited has a card that wants to add or remove counters, these will be relevant. And I don't know if their R&D or whatever is going to want to include that in their set design from here on out.
Okay, we'll see. I'll be curious to see as we go along then.
Also, there's just a ton of them that we see in most sets, right? There's a cycle of them that get reprinted where it taps, doesn't untap, draw a card. That would mean that they would never get to reprint any of those. They would just have to create all new ones with stun counters from here on out.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
I think this card is fine. I think it's Bergstrider into Bergstrider was game ending. So I'm pretty happy with this card. I think I'm giving it a 3.
Yeah, I think that's about right.
We have a 3-mana X4 Flying Djinn. Its power is equal to the number of instants and sorceries in your graveyard. Instants and sorceries cost 1 less to cast.
This is like your Enigma Drake, Crackling
Yeah.
Drake type card. Um, the card's fine.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to have a ton to make this worth it. Like a 3-mana 2/3 flyer or 2/4 flyer is fine. Like I could see playing this in
Yeah,
most decks.
yeah, I think you're going to play it in most blue decks.
Yeah, it's a 3 with some upside.
Agreed.
Haunting Figment, 2-mana, 2/1 Vigilance. Haunting Figment can't be blocked as long as you've cast an instant or sorcery spell this turn. Interesting. It also has Vigilance, which is fine. This is probably like a 2/5.
Yeah, I think it's a blue is going to have spells, so yeah, it's probably a 2/5. But there are definitely decks that are not playing this card.
I find that like blue 2-drops are usually a little underwhelming, so you end up with a lot of 2/1s that do something, and you're
That's
usually
true.
fine with that something.
That's true.
Cuttable, not anything I'm excited to pick up, but I'm certainly happy to fill my curve with this if I need to. Impede Momentum, a 2-mana sorcery that says tap target creature, put 3 stun counters on it, and scry 1. Okay, I like that. If you scry to the bottom, then that's a pretty huge bonus to have, but it also locks down something for many turns. I will say it's not instant speed, so the first turn is kind of taken up already because typically you see these cards at instant, so you can lock it down on their turn before they attack, which is like the first stun counter in this case.
Yeah. This card's going to be annoying to play against.
Yeah. That said, it's still very cuttable. It feels like a 2/5.
Yeah.
I usually don't like it when they don't replace themselves.
Yeah, I mean, it's flat card disadvantage, so 3 turns is good. It's a good delay, and it might be good enough, but it's not going to be in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Impulse, 2 mana for an instant. Look at the top 4 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom in any order. These cards are always good to play, but I always end up cutting them, so they always feel like the 23rd playable card to me.
This is fascinating to me. Impulse, for years, they were like afraid to print this card because it would be too good for Modern. And now I'm not even sure it's very good compared to what else they've done. It's fine.
This one is a little bit better given that we have so many instant and sorcery abilities. So you use this and you're actually getting payoffs from your other cards. They're unblockable, they're whatever, they're getting bigger, you're filling your graveyard, and it's getting another card to replace itself. So I think this is going to be a lot better than it typically is. But that said, I always, 20, it's like a 2.5 for me.
Yeah, this is like a 2.5 that I somehow never seem to end up playing.
Exactly.
It just always ends up it's always the 24th card.
Yes. One of the things I tend to do I'll play more of these when I have a critical mass of like very, very good cards. When my deck is just average and solid, this gets cut because I would usually want to keep that going. But if I've got like 2 bombs, I'm just like, I just want to dig through my deck and I'm happy to do so. Then that's good. So it's very, very situational.
Yeah, I mean, you get to look at 10% of your deck. That's relevant number.
Joint Exploration, 2 mana with for an instant with a green kicker cost. Scry 2, draw a card. If it was kicked, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. So for an extra green mana, you can ramp a bit with a scry. Draw feels fine. I don't think I'm playing this if I'm not in green.
Definitely not playing it if it's not in green. And in blue, I'm probably just playing Impulse instead.
Absolutely. So this is like a 2?
Yeah.
Great. Micromancer, 4 mana, 3/3 for a human wizard. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an instant or sorcery with mana value 1. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle.
That's awfully specific.
It is awfully specific, and also 4 mana 3/3s are just typically not very good. They're usually like little crabs that mill or something, and this one's an uncommon too, so it's even kind of worse. And also, I don't tend to find 1 mana spells super valuable. I'm certainly not wanting to run more than one of them. Even like the best 1 mana spells, like a shock or something. And yeah, it's fine, but I don't see myself playing this card.
Because there's at least 3 blue 1 mana spells and a good white 1 mana spell that destroyed something. But still, I know there's a good black removal spell. that costs just black.
Oh, there was the white
But
destroy target tapped creature sorcery.
yeah,
That was kind of
yeah.
fine. I guess that makes
So
sense. There's more 1-mana spells now because of the kicker costs on them.
yeah. So if you've got enough, sure. If you've got enough of them, then that's fine. But I don't want to go out of my way to make this good.
Someone in the chat mentioning you could grab marches. Just as a heads up, we are doing this in a limited perspective, so there are no marches in the format. But yeah, I think with the kicker cost, there's probably going to be more 1-drop spells, so maybe probably like a 2.
Yeah, it's a 2, and if you find yourself with 3 good 1-mana spells, then it's better.
Great. Negate. Counter target non-creature spell. These are always sideboardable. I will never put these in the main. So
Yep.
for me, it's a 1.
Yep, just the sideboard card.
All right, we have another saga with Read Ahead. Another non-land permanent phases out. It can't phase in for as long as you control this saga, and then you do that up to two times. And then for chapter 3, destroy all creatures. For each creature destroyed this way, its controller creates a 2/2 Phyrexian creature token. So you get to keep your 2 best things, and then kill everything else and replace them with 2/2s.
Yeah, I love blue board rats. This is perfect.
I mean, I feel like in limited, when you need a blue board wrath, like if you're doing this against a white player, like they're probably still going to kill you with zombies at that point.
Yeah, depending on what you've been able to save, but yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
I feel like this is probably pretty often going to be just cast on 2. Probably save 1 thing, because if you give them 2 turns to see it coming, it's not nearly as good.
It's also kind of neat. You could just like play this for 4, phase out their blocker and kill them too. Like that's kind of neat.
Sure.
Like, I'm not in love with this. I think this is a fine card, but like it isn't going to wrath when you need to wrath. It's not going to remove their creatures indefinitely when you need it to. I'm not in love with it. I think it's like a 2/5.
Yeah, I mean, in blue-white, I'm turning all my soldiers into 2/2s.
True.
Which is nice.
Possibly true. Yeah, if you're blue-white and they're like tall green, sure, this is great.
Yeah, I think this is probably I think you're probably right. It's probably like a 2/5. But it does give you some nice flexibility with the way the first 2 phases work.
Phyrexian Espionage. 3 mana for a sorcery with a 2 kicker, 1 and a black. Draw 3 cards. If it was kicked, each opponent discards a card. I like that. The kicker is fine. It's Divination plus.
Yeah, draw 2 cards.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you have
3.
the extra mana.
No, you said 3 cards, so I was like, wow, that would be really good.
In my head, I knew it was 2, but
yeah.
I even said Divination.
Yeah.
It costs 3. And my brain is like a little dyslexic, and it just kind of gets the numbers all jumbled up in my brain.
You can visit, the billboard, www.dyslexia.ocm.
That's terrible.
There's an actual billboard.
Yeah, Divination plus. I'm here for it. That seems fine.
No, I like this card. Very reminiscent of Probe from Original Invasion as well.
We've been having a lot of instant speed draw spells, and I've gotten pretty spoiled by that, but like I'm still here for a Divination. So this is like a 3 for me.
Yeah, I think they're often pretty hesitant to put instant speed discard spells, so that's probably why this ended up at sorcery.
Definitely true. Well, that and it does both, which is great.
Yeah, but be able to like play this on their draw step when they're hellbent. You discard whatever you just drew.
Pixie Illusionist, 1 mana for a 1/1 kicker 4. It has flying, and if it was kicked, it enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Target land you control becomes a basic land of your choice until end of turn. Basic land type of your choice, which helps with domain. That's pretty cool.
I'm sorry, I get such a kick out of the throwbacks to Invasion block in this set. One of the mechanics in that set was messing with your opponent's basic land types, which they rightly realized is not really that much fun for people. So it can only affect yours, but it still is nice that it's good for domain. I like this card.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little on the slow side. It's a good fixer. It's sort of like a blue fixing card, which is not something we see very often, but I think this is kind of cool.
Yeah. 1 mana 1/1 flyers are without something else usually aren't great, but this has something else, so a couple something else's.
And even if you're not domain, like you might just be wanting to splash for some reason, and that's actually just fine.
Yeah.
I think it's probably like a 2-5 for me.
Yeah, I think this has a range. It drops down to probably a 2 if you don't want any of these bonuses, especially if you're
Yes.
not blue-green. But
Yeah. Or if we just happen to be blue-green that just doesn't do domain, then for whatever reason, then that's fine.
yeah.
All right. Protect the Negotiators, 2 mana for a sorcery, or I'm sorry, for an instant, and it is a kicker 1 white. If the spell was kicked, create a bonus 1/1 white soldier. Counter target spell unless the controller pays 1 for each creature you control. I guess we're only playing this in white.
Yes, yeah, you're only playing this card in blue-white, and unfortunately you will not, the 1/1 white soldier will, I believe, not count towards your creature count. I'd have to double check that.
Someone,
No, you know what?
someone's saying it
Probably
does
does.
count, and I think because the way it's listed, because it's top to bottom, so it resolves and then they counter, and then that they have to decide to pay, I guess.
Yeah, that's probably correct. That's why I wasn't sure. If it was after, it definitely wouldn't.
We're fine with playing this. I think this card is totally reasonable. In blue-white, you're going to have a lot of creatures in white, so it's going to be pretty easy to make this a 3 mana tax, which is kind of the borderline of whether or not I'm willing to pay a tax counter. So it's like a 2/5 too.
Yep, rules and the rules release. Yep, soldier creature will be on the battlefield when the amount of mana is determined.
Great. Rana's Vortex, 1 mana instant. What's up?
So I think it's Rona's, but I'm not sure.
That's what I was thinking, but I didn't think they'd want to say Rona because we just have this problem.
Yeah, true.
Like they literally just changed a card name for it, so I'm just gonna say it's Rana because I don't know if they want to do Rona again. Instant speed kicker 3, 2 and a black. Return target creature or planeswalker you don't control to its owner's hand. If the spell was kicked, put it on the bottom of its owner's library instead. Okay, fine. 1 mana bounce spell, I'm into it. And then it's card parity if you can pay 4 with if you happen to be in blue-black exactly. So it's probably like a 2, and then it's probably like a 2/5 if you're in the right colors.
Yeah, not even just card parity, it's actual removal at that point. Sticking it on the bottom.
Well, I meant card parity. It's like you spend a card for their card. Anytime it puts it back onto their library, it feels better than a typical bounce spell where it's card disadvantage but tempo. This actually offers you the parity for that as well, which is really nice.
Sure, I just the blue ones either give your opponent the option or just put it on top, so you're never actually getting rid of the thing here.
Yes.
It's even better.
Yes, agreed.
And it's a 1 mana spell for your Micromancer.
Yeah, we're going to see a ton of the 1 mana spells, I think, because of the kicker cost. That was not a thing that really, dawned on me at the time. But once we thought of the white one that destroys a tapped creature with the blue kicker, I think there'll be at least 1 in every color plus.
Agreed.
I like this card.
Yeah,
I think it's a 2/5 that's going to play like a 3 when you're in black.
Yep, exactly.
It might even just be better, actually. Instant speed, 4 mana, 2 blue-black for put it at the bottom of their library. I'm down. That's probably better.
2 blue-black basically destroy target creature or planeswalker.
Yeah. If you're in blue-black exactly, then this is probably getting closer to our premium removal, right?
Yeah. I think, because it's multicolored, it's a little harder to put it all
cast.
the way up there. But, yeah, I mean, if you're in blue-black, it's fantastic.
I mean, oftentimes we give, 3, 5, or 4 for 2 black destroy a creature at sorcery speed. This is an instant. I don't think black is too much different than blue-black. I think that's probably even better because you're more inclined to keep hands with both colors anyway.
It's better in blue-black.
Yes.
It can go in way fewer decks.
Correct. I'm honestly not really thinking of this card very much unless you're in blue-black.
Yeah, agree.
And 1 mana bounce spell's fine, but it doesn't scry or redraw or any of that stuff, so I usually am pretty low on them. So I like it. It's like a 3/5. I'm not really playing it if it's not blue-black.
Unless I have 5 Micromancers.
Shore Up. I don't know what this is, but I like the little lobster here. I really like lobsters.
It's a homarid.
1 blue for an instant. Target creature you control gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof until end of turn. Untap it. So great. You can untap it. You can use it as a combat trick. Eat their stuff. Gets +1/+1 and gains hexproof. Just protect all your important stuff and call it a day. This card is fine. It's like a 2/5, 1 of easy cut.
Yeah, more almost Snakeskin Veils.
We never have enough Snakeskin Veils, apparently. All right, Silvery Scrutiny, X blue for a sorcery that says you may cast this card as though it had flash if X is 3 or less, and you can draw X cards. So 5 mana, draw 3 at instant speed. I feel like I'm not going to cast it for more than 5 most of the time anyway.
Yeah, I like this card a lot.
Yeah.
You want to play it for more really late in the game? Sure, and you can play it at sorcery speed, great. But yeah, 5 mana at instant speed, fantastic.
I mean, I've definitely paid 4 mana at instant speed to draw 2 plenty of times.
Yep.
So this is great. This is like a 3/3/5.
Yeah, I think it's a 3/5.
Nice. Well, it depends on how slow the format is. I think the slower the format is, the better this is going to get. So we'll kind of have to see. But I like it. Soaring Drake. Man, the power creep is real. We just have a vanilla 2/3 flyer for 3. Back in the day, these were just 2/2s. What happened?
Poor Windrake.
Windrake is long gone, guys. We are now soaring Windrakes, apparently. So yeah, this card's on curve, above filler for me. So
yeah, do we just have to now change how we view these cards? Like, if this is the vanilla baseline now,
well,
does that just change how we rate, 3 and 4 mana flyers?
We've always kind of rated a 2/3 for 3 not flying as our vanilla. So this feels more stronger to me. Like, this is getting closer. Like, a vanilla 2/3 for 3 has been our 2. So this feels closer to like a 2/5, maybe even a 3 for me.
Yeah, I just mean if all the power creep is pushing a Windrake to become this, does that just affect everything relatively?
We'll have to see, I suppose. I mean, I think we're still getting a fair number of vanilla 2/3s and 3/2s. So I would say not yet, but maybe.
Yeah, I think it's more something to keep an eye on going forward than right now.
So 2/5?
Yep.
All right, Sphinx of Clear Skies, a 5 mana 5/5 with flying and ward. All right, I'm playing it. It's like a 5. I don't know what it says, but it's a 5. There's a lot of text. It's too much text for it not to be a 5, right?
I love these cards. I'm sorry, I love all these invasion callbacks. This has Fact or Fiction on it.
When it deals combat damage to a player, reveal the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among lands you control. An opponent separates them into 2 piles. Put 1 pile into your hand and the other pile into your graveyard. So it's mostly going to be, in the normal, plain, average old deck, it's going to be your opponent gives you the second worst card off the top of your deck?
No, you get to pick.
Oh, that's right. You just get the best card off the top of your pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, this seems very good. And it has ward too, so it protects itself a bit. It's also 5 toughness, which means a huge chunk of the removal is not going to hit it. So I love this card. It's probably just a 5.
Yeah, and if you can get this X up to 3, not only like in the optimal scenario, you're getting the best card or the other 2, but that also involves your opponent making the correct decisions, where sometimes you might get 2 cards that you want. Yeah,
sometimes your opponent doesn't know what it is you want or need, and you're just like, oh, you gave me the thing I wanted. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bomb's doing Bob stuff.
Fact or Fiction, I still think, is one of the most skill-testing cards ever printed. So I love that. And it was an invasion printing, so I love that they stuck it on this card.
Talus Lookout. We've got 2 colorless blue for a human pirate with flying. It's a 3/2. When it dies, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put one of them into your hand and the other into the graveyard. This seems busted. I love this.
Yeah.
It's a fine rate. 4 mana for a 3-powered flyer that replaces itself. I'm into it. It's Organ Hoarder on steroids. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, card's really good. Even with the 2 toughness, even if you saw a bunch of shocks or stuff in this format, that's fine. You're still getting the card advantage out of it. And it's
Absolutely.
Well, I guess so was Organ Hoarder.
Only a common, yeah. But the Organ Hoarder didn't fly. You could at least block the damn thing. Like, Organ Hoarder itself was not likely to kill you. This will still kill you.
True, Organ Hoarder gave you, was it 3 cards instead of 2?
What do you mean, 3 cards?
Was it the trigger, look at the top 3?
Something like that, but you still only got 1. Yeah.
You still only got 1, yeah. You got more choice, but a worse body.
Yeah, but it was just bricked by a 3/4, 3-mana werewolf guy, right? Like, there was...
Yeah.
It itself wasn't scary. This is.
Yes, agreed.
So I think this is like a 3/5.
I think it is, too. This card's great.
We saw one really powerful common in white as well, so it doesn't surprise me to see one here. Tidepool Turtle. 4 mana for a 2/5. Pay 3 mana to scry. I like Dirtly Idiots. It's not great, but it's like a curve-filling 2. What do you think?
I don't know how you like Dirtly Idiots and like Boros Aggro at the same time.
Well, I don't like to play Dirtly Idiots. I just like them. Like,
okay.
It's just cute. I just like turtles.
So I guess that explains why you have me back all the time.
Mm-hmm. I play Boros, but my friends... No, my friends are turtles. No, I just like turtles, and they're cute. But, like, I could just see, sometimes you are just playing a blue-black control deck, and you're just like, I don't really have any 4s. I just want this, and it just, like, helps me dig for my bomb, or whatever.
Yeah, or it just gums up the ground while you attack through the air. Mm-hmm. It's a good mana sink. Yeah, I like this card. Nothing special, but it's good.
It's going to be cut most of the time, but I feel like it's going to see some play, which is, for me, a 2.
Yeah, I think it's a 2.
Great. Moving right along, we have Timely Interference. 1 blue for an instant with a kicker of 1 and a red. Target creature gets -1/-0 till end of turn. If this was kicked, that creature blocks this turn if able. Draw a card. So you could just use it as like a short little trade down, right? This trades for their creature. You get to, like, if they think they're trading, surprise, they're not. You kill their creature for this, which is still a 1-for-1. Or you can get their, like, premium dork that is doing something with its abilities that you want to kill and throw it under a giant bus, and it replaces itself. So pretty flexible. I think it's cuttable, but I would probably put this at a 2.
Yeah, I mean, if in the right scenario, it's a 2-for-1, so it's definitely worth sticking in your deck. But it's not huge upside because that scenario won't come up that often.
2-for-1, you mean I guess if they're double blocking, you mean?
Well, or just if you 1-for-1 this card for that and you replace yourself.
Yeah, so it's like a 1-for-0, kind of.
Yeah, 1-for-0, I guess, instead of 2-for-1, yeah.
All right, we have the next white kicker spell here. 3 mana for a sorcery with kicker 1 white. Return target creature to its owner's hand. Draw a card. If the spell was kicked, gain 3 life as well. Okay, so this is one of the blue spells that actually doesn't matter if you can cast the kicker, I think. Like, 3 is nice if you have it, but I'm not like, ooh, I'm in white, I'm going to play this. I'm likely to play this in any of the blue decks.
Agreed. I don't think it matters if you're in white. I'm a little mesmerized by why they templated these last 2 cards so differently. When they're kind of similar, they don't, like, draw card is in the middle of this text and is at the end of the last one.
Agreed. I feel like it should have been templated the same. The first time I read this, I didn't see the draw card.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden.
It is sorcery speed, but it also is a bounce spell that replaces itself, so I'm pretty happy to do that. I think this is like a 2/5.
Yeah, I think so as well.
All right, Tolarian Terror, 7 mana, costs 1 less to cast for each instant of sorcery in your graveyard, has Ward 2, and it's a 5/5. I feel like in blue, this is probably going to cost you 5 mana.
Yeah, 5. Yeah, I could definitely see it less. I mean, this is your like blue-red finisher. Um,
I mean,
other than
it will definitely cost you less later in the game, but like on curve wise, I can't see you
oh,
casting it
sure,
too much earlier than 5.
agreed. Yeah, I do agree with that.
And if you're casting it on 10 or 12, then it doesn't really matter, I think, at that point. Like, the discounted rate is less relevant. Still good, of course, especially if you draw cards and things, but for curve purposes, I think it's a 5 at the best.
Yeah, I agree with that. This feels like one of those cards that should have that you see in a lot of sets that have one of those like 5 or 6 mana activated abilities to make it unblockable.
Yeah.
To be like the true finisher that kind of wants. Because it's just gonna get chumped by 1/1 soldiers all day.
Yeah, it is interesting to see after we just had like that really really strong one from the D&D set where it was like a bounce spell on one side of the adventure and then like a 6/6 unblockable on the other side, which was much scarier. So this feels okay, but nothing special. I mean, to me this is like a 2. I'd rather have a better top end, but if I don't, this is fine.
Yeah, this is a 2. I'll probably make it a 2/5 if I'm playing specifically Is it, but any other blue deck, it's very, very cuttable.
All right, I'm going to let you take the next 2.
Vesuvan Diplomancy, a 3 and a blue enchantment. Whenever you cast a spell that targets only a single artifact or creature you control, create a token that's a copy of that artifact or creature, except it's not legendary. Huh. So, you need. It's an interesting effect in blue. I mean, blue is the copy effect, so that makes sense, but you're not often targeting your own creatures with spells.
I mean, this is like Simic to me, right? Where you have like pump
Yeah.
spells or fight spells is what you're really looking at here, or white. Azorius
white.
had a lot of like, +2/+2 for 2 creatures, untap them, that sort of stuff. So yeah, I could see this in some Azorius or some Simic, but for the most part, not other than that. Like blue, you're not really wanting to touch your own stuff in blue in general. So this is a build around. I think the average deck is going to be a straight up 1. And then some decks, I could see this being a 2/5.
Yeah, if you have a lot of good like ETB effects,
Yeah.
then it gets much better. If you have a number of shore ups or even that timely interference, you could play on your own creature for 1 mana to draw a card and make a copy of it.
When it works, so it's a bit of a build around, right? So it's
Yeah.
a 1 or a 2/5. And the reason I give it a 2/5 and not more is because what's going to end up happening is you're going to get this card and then you're going to build around it and then you're going to have a shit ton of really crappy targeting spells and you're not going to see this card. So the average that those games are going to play is going to be a 2/5 in that you'll play it and you'll have all your spells and they'll work out great and you'll just absolutely obliterate your opponent, or you'll just draw this, not draw those spells, not draw the creatures, and it turns out very clunky, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a tough build around because for it to actually really be good, you need the quality creatures with the effects, and B not janky targeting spells like stuff you would play anyway.
Yeah.
Or at least would be close to playing anyway.
Yeah.
Which is asking a lot. But if you put it all together, sure. I mean, more power.
It can win some games, certainly, but I think a lot of times it's going to be super clunky.
Agreed, and it's literally 4 mana, do nothing when on the turn you play it.
Yeah.
So
it's a 1 that's going to average a 2/5 in the right deck, and it'll play like a 4 if you're lucky.
Yep, sounds about right.
Vada Sea Scavenger, 3 mana for a 3/2 Merfolk Rogue with Domain. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of basic land types among land types you control. You may put one of those cards on top of your library, put the rest in the bottom in a random order. Okay, so big sort of scry-ish ability for a vanilla Merfolk Rogue. I'm fine with that. It's probably going to be like Scry 2, basically. But you have to put one to the bottom, so if it's like your 2 bombs, it feels bad. If they're 2 lands, not as great, so certainly not as good as Scry, but probably a 2/5.
Yeah, card's fine. If I'm straight 2 colors with no way to get to 3, it probably drops down to a 2, but
I think it's a little bit better. I find Scry 2 minus to be a little bit better than our vanilla creature. But it's close.
Yeah, I guess you do get the option to scry everything to the bottom. You just can't keep multiple things on top. Which does make this feel a little better.
You may put one on those on top and put the rest, yeah. Yeah, I like it. It's a 2/5 for me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The fact that you can put all the lands on the bottom, if that's what you hit, and you don't like sort of brainstorm lock yourself, is nice.
Yeah, and even if you want to put both and you couldn't, still getting rid of one is pretty valuable to me. If that's your worst case scenario,
yeah,
you're still in a much better spot.
True.
Merfolk Wizard. You have here's the Lord, the Merfolk Lord, 2/2 flash. Other merfolks get +1/+1. Sacrifice a merfolk, counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 1. It's only a 1/1 though, which is a little weird.
I'm stealing Zoom Waffle's name for this card. This is definitely Lord of Flashlantis.
That's a good one. Yeah, okay, I'm in. Their new name, good job, Zoom Waffles. Lord of Flashlantis. It is, I think this card is fine. The fact that it's a below rate creature on its own, and unlike the other lords where I think we will find a couple of straggling creatures outside of the color in those creature types, I don't think we're going to find merfolk outside of blue, really. So it's probably the weakest of the lords in limited, I would say.
Yeah, this might be the best one for constructed.
Probably. I hear goblins are looking good too.
Yeah, and so is the elf one, but I mean, Curse Catcher saw vintage play for a while, and that was just a 1-mana 1/1 that had that last ability, except it was only on itself. This card will be great in constructed, and potentially in standard, as we're going to go to Ixalan and Eldraine.
True.
Both places with Merfolk. But yeah, in limited, this is probably the worst of the bunch.
I think this is a 1 for me.
Yeah, if you find yourself with 6-7 Merfolk, I'll probably play this.
That's true, but that's certainly not the average deck, I think.
Agreed. Yeah, it's a 1 that you'll know if you really want the card.
All right, we have a Mind Singer. 3-mana Merfolk Wizard. It's a 2/2 with kicker. 1 colorless and a red, and or 1 colorless and a green. When it enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it for each time that it was kicked. So it's 5 mana 4/4, 7 mana 6/6. When it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature with power less than this creature for as long as you control it. Interesting. So you could just, I guess it kind of sucks if you don't kick it somehow, but once you've kicked it once, 5 mana gain control of a creature is pretty decent.
Yeah, 3 mana to steal a 1 or 0, 5 mana to steal 3 or less. Yeah, I think if you can get to 5, if you can get to 5 mana, so 4/4, it's pretty good.
And then once it's removed, they get it back. So, I mean, it's not a home run by any means, and it doesn't steal stuff super consistently. So I'd say this is probably like a 3/5.
Yeah, I mean, Sower of Temptation was always great, and that was a 4 mana 2/2. Now that was a flyer, and it could steal anything. But this is a little cheaper, and could be bigger. I mean, it could be a 6/6 on it, if you have enough mana in the right colors. So, yeah, I like this card. 3/5 sounds right.
Like, if you were just kicking it once, which I think is the consistent average there, you might not be in both colors. It kind of reminds me of a Mind Flayer, 5 mana for a steal a thing, but this is way more limited. But it's also a little bigger. It turns into a 4/4 versus a 3/3, so it's easier to keep. But sometimes you just might not be able to steal the thing you need to steal, and that's just going to be way worse.
Well, that's perfect, because this is a limited set review, so it's a good thing it's way more limited, right?
Haha, very funny. Tide Turner, 2 mana for a 1/3 that says tap, add a blue, spend this mana for an instant or sorcery spell, or a kicker spell. Okay, I'm fine with this. It's a perfectly fine filler card.
Yeah, we kind of see this card in a lot of sets, except for the added kicker part. This is great in blue-red or great in any deck with a lot of kicker spells.
We did see this in the first Dominaria, right? In the form of a green elf that could produce green or double green for a kicker. So I feel like this is sort of normal. That we would see in a set with kickers. So I'm happy with this. I think it's a 2/5.
I think in your baseline deck, this is probably a 2, but
I agree with that.
There are plenty of decks where it'll be better.
Yeah, I think just the fact that it doubles as the instant or sorcery spell deck and also in the kicker decks, I feel like it will find more homes than not, so I was willing to give it a little bit of a boost. But I agree that any one of these abilities is likely just to be a 2.
Yep.
All right, that is the end of our blue, guys. We made it, and again, under 1 hour. Yanks, thank you very much for joining us.
And under 1 hour about blue, I'm not doing my job.
I know. I tried to push you a little bit. For those of you guys who were listening on the YouTube, make sure you guys leave us a comment down below. Let us know what you guys thought of blue. If you guys missed white introduction, make sure you guys go back and check those out. And don't forget, the rest of the ones will be up shortly after this. So thank you guys very much for checking out our limited set review, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye! I'd like to end this video with a special thank you to those of you guys who have signed up for my Patreon. Without my wonderful patrons, none of this content would be possible. If you'd like to support this content and get your name up on the Wall of Fame, you can sign up for our Patreon by using the link down below in the description. Another way you can support the channel is by using code MNG5 with Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find cool stuff in stock. They have everything you need for Magic, board games, and any of your other nerdy hobbies.